Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Three Drams. As always, I am your host, Matt Healy, and I am delighted to be with you here this evening for episode 37. We are having a fantastic time with Three Drams. As always, Three Drams is the fantastic show that brings you three Irish whiskies, usually from three different makers, all the way to your door from anywhere in the world where it is legal to do so. But tonight, we were in a very special and lucky position to be having a fantastic takeover with Daithí O'Connell and WD O'Connell Whiskey Merchants. I am seeing people in the comment section already being very excited for tonight's setting and set up, should I say. If you're a subscriber to Three Drams, this is what you will get in the post or in the mail, depending on part of the world you're from. This box gives you three of the finest of Irish whiskies. It comes like this. We have Drams 1, 2, and 3 with your little tasting and info card right here. It is something that is bringing Irish whiskey to the doors of people all around the world. The most, we have about 1,800 people joining for these tastings. People watch live after the fact. We have people in Brazil, Australia, Japan, and Canada that watch in the mornings and the afternoons after we go live, which is always great to see their comments and feedback on the far side of it. So we have the three little bottles out here. Of course, if you have them taste along with us, you have, as I said, this is your box. It breaks down, all very nice and recyclable, except the little foam insert. So please recycle correctly. And listen, that's all the boring stuff. We're here to have a great time with WD O'Connell Whiskey Merchants. But as always, we want to say hello to the people in the comment section. It is always nice to see that our guest for the evening, Daithí, jumped into the comment section to say hello to everyone, which is great. He's not only talking to you in person, but also in the comment section. Martin Purcell, always one of the first people up. I'm delighted to see. Always a great showing from Glanmire, because if you didn't know, the people behind Three Drams is Irish Malts and the O'Donovan brothers, who of course are from Glanmire. So that is great to see support in the hometown. Martin saying he's in Dublin City Centre with a Selection Whiskey. What can go wrong? Absolutely nothing. So I am delighted to see, as always, we've got a lot of people tuning in. We've got a couple of whiskey groups that meet up as well in different parts of the country that tune in for Three Drams. So a very big hello to you guys. It is great to see everyone tuning in. But of course, as Mike D says in the comments section, the most verbose tasting notes yet. These are, I was musing before the show, and I will have to ask Daithí about this. I was musing before the show that these are the longest tasting notes I have seen. I don't know if I can get you without blurring them out. The absolute length of these tasting notes is fantastic, and I love it. So it is, as I said, great to have WD O'Connell Whiskey Merchants. They have a big fandom online, of course. If you're on the likes of the Facebook, you can look up Friends of WD O'Connell, where you'll see a lot of people who are very enthused and engaged with the likes of the Bill Phil and the other whiskies from O'Connell at WD O'Connell's. And you'll be able to talk about like-minded things there if you were so interested. And just some housekeeping as well. Next month, I think on YouTube and whatnot, it is officially scheduled for next episode, which is 38, to take place on the 28th of December, but that's obviously between Christmas and New Year's. So I think that's actually was the wrong date put up. I think it's going to be the 21st of December to be this side of Christmas instead of the time in between when everyone is actually jumping in between Christmas and New Year's. But as I said, listen, we want to say a very big thank you to the guys in Irish Malts who put this all together. There is a fantastic amount of work that goes into not only decanting all the whiskeys that go into all these bottles and then get labeled and shipped all across the world, of course, all GI verified and correct. But then, of course, organizing the back end and working with people like Daithí to get all these whiskeys set up 4 months in advance. But as I said, no one's here to listen to me rabbit on. It is time to introduce the first and only guest of this evening. This big WD O'Connell takeover is with the man himself. It is Daithí O'Connell, and we're going to look at Dram Iver 1. Welcome to the show, Daithí. How are you doing?
Good evening. How are you all? Thanks for having me, Matt. John and Robert and Irish Malts and Lavinia, of course. Good to be here.
Well, we're delighted to have you. I am hoping that all things said and equal, the internet is staying good for you down there.
Yeah, we had a little scare there a moment ago again, but I think we're good now.
That's okay. I can stall if we need to stall. We can keep going.
Good job. You did a good job.
So I do want to bring up one of the things straight away. We're going to be tasting 3 whiskeys tonight. It is a WD O'Connell takeover. Dahi, anyone who's watched us talk before, we always have things to talk about, which is going to be great. The one thing I want to say at the beginning is we're going to taste 3 whiskeys. The first one is available on Irish malts, but the second 2 are not. As always, there will be an email sent out to everyone whom subscribes to 3 Drams, and you will get a discount code for all WD O'Connell products on Irish malts. But in a bonus to that, on WDO'Connell.com, if you use the code 3Dram10, which you see and the little ticker down below, you'll get 10% off almost the whole range, including the two other whiskeys 2 and 3 we're tasting tonight, which aren't on Irish malts but are on your website. And that code is available for the next 7 days, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's 3 Drams 10. If Tom is listening, he can confirm or deny that. So you can just
that
makes more sense.
I don't know what we're talking about. That's exactly what the ticker says. Don't worry.
That
was quick.
Silly me.
So Dahi, tell us that is correct for the next 7 days. Almost everything on the website is 10% off. If you out there are doing your Christmas shopping, have a look. What fine things can they find on the website, Dahi?
Well, we have all the whiskeys we have tonight. It's a bit complicated tonight because we were supposed to have a different whiskey, so we needed a last minute filler, and we used exclusive from the number 21 off license group, not Irish malts. But John is very generous, and he didn't mind to throw it in there. And but Irish malts run our website as well, so it's all being managed by the family. So that's the main thing. And so we've got the number 21 exclusive, which is number 2. We've got the WD O'Connell exclusive, which is a bill filled cask strength in rum, which you can't get anywhere else as well. And we've got small batch, which is available in along with bill fill, the regular bill fill, which is available in the Irish malt shop. I'm not sure if Irish malts have some other goodies left or not at this point from previous bottlings. And then in our shop, then we've got our cask share selection, which is a little operation we have where we allow people to buy 1 share, which is equivalent to 1 cask strength bottle, and we release 1 per year. So we've done 2 so far. The second bottles are going out to people from tomorrow on, and the third bottling since we started will happen in March. So we've got 7 more after that to come. So you kind of buy, it's a nice little thing to buy, and they're exclusive to us, and they're only limited to 150 bottles. So generally about 120 bottles are sold of each one, and we keep back some of them.
And it's not just Irish whiskey. There's kind of a range of what's
it's mainly it's vast majority Irish whiskey. We do have 1 Scotch in there. It's a Milton Duff single malt, which is a really nice one actually. That'll be when that, and you get to see the release date. So we have a release date. They're always cask strength. They're always bottled at the time that we say we're going to bottle them. They mightn't get shipped out at that time, but they're bottled, decanted. But yeah, it's been it was a great idea in theory, and then try to get people to kind of start paying all their taxes and duty at the time, because we can't commit to excise duty in advance, and shipping, because we don't know where people are going to be when they're shipping, and so we have to do 2 payments. So there's a bit of work to do. So we're open to any suggestions to make that easier from anyone in process there. But yeah, that we've got plenty, and it's a bit complicated. So apologies for that now tonight, but we just have to do something kind of last minute to.
Well, listen. What solves complication is cracking the bottle on lovely whiskey. I already see people jumping. Oh, that is. I'm sorry. There's a load of people who said the aromas on these are great. That was a phenomenal first throw of the nose in there. I'll pull up the pictures. You don't have to hold it up there.
Okay.
So Dahi, tell us a little bit about this whiskey as I pour the whiskey into the glass.
Yeah, so this is our 10-year-old single grain whiskey that we're on to batch 5, as you can see, that we launched in I believe late 2020. I can't remember actually. It's all kind of ran into one. It could have been early 2021 as well. and it's called the Bourbon and Rye series. So it's 10-year-old Cooley grain, and it started off initially with 12-year-old Cooley grain in rye and 10-year-old in bourbon, and now it's 10-year-old in bourbon and 13-year-old in rye. So we have to kind of adjust the percentages on each batch to try and keep consistency as best I can. It's always at 48%. It's always Cooley distillate. It's always bourbon and rye casks. So that's the one thing you can be sure of. It's always good quality, non-chill filtered, no additional coloring. You can see it's getting a little darker, obviously, as the 13 influence on it, I think, here. But it's still pretty light colored whiskey. For me, it was very important to bring out a whiskey like this for people to be able to enjoy it anytime on any occasion, and to kind of draw people in who are not maybe big whiskey drinkers into the world of whiskey, and show them how different it can be and versatile it can be. And, you know, we did promotions with this where we, you know, the 10 and tonic and elderflower in there as well, and 10 and soda, you know, anything at all. Like, it's just a versatile whiskey. My own preference pour for this, as much as I like it neat, is actually to serve it over a big piece of ice. Because with the grain,
serve it over which?
A large piece of ice.
Oh, so you said a pizza pie, and I was like,
No.
that's
a large piece of ice. Sorry, my voice is a bit raspier than usual. So it's a really great whiskey, and, you know, it's grain, so it's corn whiskey basically. So really lots of sweet notes in there, and I suppose we'll have a wee drop. Might cure my sore throat.
Sláinte.
I always enjoy that one. It's a real crowd pleaser. Any tastings I do anywhere goes down very well.
It is an absolute delight on the palate. Like it very few whiskeys dance without being astringent, if that makes sense. But this is like, it's almost like pop rocks on my palate. It's very
that's a good one. Yeah, pop rock.
It kind of has that little like that popping quality to it without when I usually think about that, I think of like alcohol burn and astringency, but it's not that. It's just this lovely kind of almost effervescence on the tongue.
Yeah, that's a great description. Yeah, it's great. Like, there's lots of really nice fresh, you know, pear, kind of like sweet pecans, like that, not raw pecans, if that makes sense. Like candied, I guess. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And then the rye has that nice crack. You know, the rye is given that kind of like cracked peppery spiciness, almost like baking spices at the end. I'm not big into telling people about what their taste, by the way, so that's what I get on it.
Your tasting notes would tell a different story, as a number of people are now calling it the Iliad tasting notes.
we haven't done tasting. I say we, like, Tom and I, but like, it's not Tom's job, so it's like I used to have like a system where I did the tasting notes with Chris Hennessy and Phil Crawford.
Okay.
During when, you know, I had nothing else to do, so it was like just whiskey. But now we have so much to do. I'm like, tasting notes are the last thing on my mind. So we used to have the panel of tasting notes, and I get their notes and with my notes, and I combine them, because I combine all the notes that were different, because then we had 3 different palates, and we have all very different palates, and it gave us a really nice range of tasting notes. And then I just stopped doing that because I just got too busy. And I really should go back to it, because they were great notes. Mine are terrible. I was rambling on. If you see the first ones for the 10, like, they're the ones from the panel, and then the next 2 are me rambling from a hotel room in The Hague, because I was a bit ill and I couldn't leave the hotel room for a bit. So
this festival that just went by, the Whiskey Festival of The Hague.
Yeah, I got food poisoning my first night there.
Oh.
So yeah, I was. I'm on a lucky road at the moment.
Clearly, well, let me ask you about that. We're jumping into, and for anyone watching internationally, Whiskey Festival of The Hague, or the International Whiskey Fest in Hague, is my favorite whiskey festival to attend. It's one of the longest festivals, I will say.
Very long. Yeah,
it's like 13 hours of standing around as an exhibitor, but a great whiskey festival. But when looking at, you know, global markets, and I think that's people forget. a lot is that, you know, Irish whiskey is booming around the world, but we still need to go out and slog and flog Irish whiskey. When you've got something like this grain whiskey, what markets around the world gravitate towards or are very kind of positive towards grain whiskeys? Because obviously ones are different, but not everyone loves grain whiskey.
Yeah, like Europe, like Irish people are very open to grain whiskey, which is great. I think that's been my experience so far. European market is very malt, as you know, Matt, very malt heavy market, very snob. I would call it malt snobbish market. You know, people think Irish companies don't make single malt. They think single malt is the purvey of the Scots only. Like that's just single malt means Scottish, which happens a lot. And I only drink single malt type thing. You get a lot. So then grain whiskey is a tougher sell for sure. When they try it, they like it, but getting them to try it is difficult. So if you can get into tastings or at festivals where you can get put liquid on lips for people, it generally gets really great feedback. And the younger audience tend to be a bit more open to it. And the Netherlands just gone on that show, which is a great show, like you said. The younger audience were far more open to that. They didn't care that it was grain whiskey. They had no, you know, pretense about what to expect from whiskey. So they were all very new whiskey drinkers and weren't pretending they knew everything about whiskey, which a lot of people do. And, you know, I think that's really great. That's good for the future because I do believe that grain whiskey can really fill a nice gap, especially with age profile and price point in the coming 10, 15 years from Ireland, you know, because the age statement that's coming up out of the Cooley stock, there's obviously there's some older Middleton stock lying around, and then you'll have a lot of, you've got 7-year-old grain from Cork and G&D now as well. So like, you know, it's still going to be predominantly Cooley stock, but at least there's opportunity there to kind of have some more age statement at a nicer price point. Like it's a 21-year-old grain versus a 21-year-old malt at wholesale is probably about 6 times cheaper. Is it 6 times inferior? Absolutely not. You know, I think, and with the right cask profiling, it can be really exciting. So yes, I might have gone off tangent a little bit, but yeah, that's right. The US as well. People don't care about, you know, corn whiskey in the US is, you know, they don't mind. They have no issue. But I guess because they're familiar with it. They're not snobbish about things like that either. So I did take single grain off the label on this one, if you noticed. So
well, I'll pull my stock photo back up and see there. So that's small batch.
No, well, it says 10-year Irish whiskey, so it used to say 10-year single grain Irish whiskey, but we decided just to use the age statement on Irish whiskey just to grab people's attention. All the details are still on the back, the same as always, what kind of whiskey, etc. But maybe it puts people off in the European markets in particular.
And I would concur. There's as you said, the kind of the Scotch or the single malt snobbery. Actually, I'll tell a quick adage before I get to Mike's question, because Mike has a really good question. But it was actually the Whiskey Festival, The Hague. I think it was my 3rd year going to it. I dealt with so many Dutch people. This is not a comment on Dutch people. It's just this festival made me think of it. That would say, is this peated? And I'd go, no, it's not peated. But they're all single malts. And they go, I only drink peat. And then they'd walk away, and they'd never stop. So in a previous job, I made a peated cask whiskey to simply stop that Dutch guy who came every year and said it. Turned out to be a great product. I was really happy with it, but he was the guy I was trying to stop in his tracks. And it's really funny because going back to the show the year after was kind of the launch of that product and of this peated cask product that I had worked on and brought to life. And then I had the same type of consumer come to me and go, is this peated? And I go, actually, you know what? This is peated. And then once he tried that, I got him to try the whole range. That's something that he had never done before, you know? And it was just that hook onto the guy to do whatever he only drank peated whiskey. Fine, I'll give you some slightly peated whiskey, and now come and try all my single malts and blends or whatever. And he was delighted, and he bought whatever bottle, and he was happy. And it was just getting over that one barrier. And like you said, like, was it single malt? No, I don't want to drink it. I'm not interested.
Yeah, and they, like, don't even bother getting into pot still with them. Forget that conversation. So yeah, and like the Bill Phil, our peated whiskey really opens doors for us, and at these shows in Europe where we can immediately say we've got from day one, here's a peated malt. I can use the term heavily peated malt, even though, and it won't drink like any heavily peated malt you ever drank before, because obviously it's triple distilled, so like the peat is far less on the palate and finish. It's more balanced to it, and it's just really interesting to get them. It's a hook. It really is a hook. And I look, to be honest, I'm convinced, and I say this to people all the time, that a lot of people who claim to be professed peat heads don't drink or like half the whiskey that they say they do, to be honest. I really do believe that.
Well, Mike had a question here I want to get into. You said that a 21-year-old grain could be 6 times less expensive than a 20-year-old malt and wholesale prices.
Yeah.
And Mike says, why the price difference?
Well, I guess grain is the most widely available whiskey available in any market really in the world. Like column distilled whiskey, we call it grain whiskey here, is the most widely available whiskey in any market. So Scotland, Ireland, like 90% of Irish whiskey that's produced, and it could be 85, it could be 90, I'm not sure, but like is column distilled grain whiskey, and that probably is reflected in the same amount of blended whiskies that are actually sold versus single malts or pot distilled. And the same for Scotch, maybe slightly more single malts sold in Scotland, maybe slightly less blend, maybe 80-20. But it's still, that's why basically, and it's cheaper to make. Matt can probably go into a lot more detail on the distillation side than me. That's just my 2 cents on it.
So Mike came in with a follow-up. Is the production process much easier and cheaper? Which is literally, as you were saying it, is basically what he was asking. But yeah, I mean, you're producing continuous batch in your columns rather than in the pots being batch production, and at much higher alcohol levels.
Oh yeah,
what you're getting out of the pots, and herein lies why a lot of the Europeans get snobby about single malt versus single grain in possibly what is the most. I was actually only thinking about this the other day. What has to be the best marketing tactic has ever been pulled off, except for convincing people that shit Guinness is the fault of the public and not the fault of Guinness. To convince people that efficiently made whiskey is inferior to inefficiently made whiskey, which I agree. There's obviously the flavor differences and the grains and whatnot all has huge impacts. But I just love the fact that in any other industry, if you're like, well, I can make cars 30% faster and less expensive. And you're like, well, that guy buckles my car seats in by hand and it costs me 8 times as much. You're like, you're insane. I'm obviously not going to go talk to that guy. But I just find it a very interesting technique that generally, like in American whiskey, half the distillation in some places is done in a pot and a column, and sometimes the columns first and sometimes the pots first. And, as you're saying, like in America, they care a lot less because it's just a part of the distillation process.
Yeah. I think it'll change with time, really. And like, especially in the newer markets, Asia and Africa, and South America, I think those markets that are completely unexposed yet really to whiskey in a large scale, that's where it won't matter either. Like they won't care, and they shouldn't, because ultimately, right, it comes off, it gets brought down, cut and barreled. From that moment on, all bets are off. Everything is equal in terms of it's now going to take a fucking long time to make this product. Yeah. So you might have got to the start line quicker, and you might be on pole as opposed to being at the back of the grid. But ultimately now the race is on, and it's going to take. It's not a race. The marathon's going to be 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever. And that doesn't seem to be taken into account at all. And I feel
No,
when people are
absolutely.
complaining about pricing, it just drives me bananas too, because
Well, it's
the amount
funny
of
when you
effort that
mentioned
goes into
the
whiskey versus like a gin, say, or vodka or white spirits. Like,
yeah.
you know,
Well, it's funny you mentioned some of those unexposed markets. I've been speaking to some people in those unexposed markets recently, and they don't care about pot still or malt or whatever, but they want as critically dark as possible. They're like as much caramel as can be
yeah,
put into it. Does it taste? We don't really care what goes into it. Make it taste good and make it black as night.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Like it's crazy, and it's like people drinking a pint of Guinness. You know, it looks good, it tastes good.
yeah,
That's the bottom line. It's how you eat with your eyes. Some of the comments there, just if you want to pick up on them, Matt, on this whiskey, is that it's a grain whiskey again that we said from Cooley, which is predominantly made from 95 corn and 5% malted barley, and it's not rye whiskey, so it's rye cask, so it's been matured. Third part of it, the smallest part of it, is a 13-year-old whiskey, and that's been rye cask. That was an ex-American rye whiskey cask, which is a rye whiskey that's then giving us that rye influence, as opposed to like a full-on rye. Full-on rye whiskey is a very, very different animal. Even a full-on rye cask grain is a very different animal. It's amazing how little that we need to put in here to get the influence without having that dominate the influence. Like
yeah,
the rye would dominate it would dominate the bourbon cask very quickly with a small percentage more. You know, you'd actually lose all of those traits that we're trying to keep in there on the nose and on the palate start at the front. So it's quite interesting to see that. And I will absolutely bring out a full 100% rye cask whiskey at some point in the near future, hopefully next year actually. Maybe at 13 or 14 years old, and that would be a very different animal. What else was there, Matt? Now we got through all those. Yeah, there's a great long finish on it. Sorry, that was the other one, and that again is the rye cask. Adding that, because a bourbon cask grain will be very short finish. You get all the beautiful flavors that you expect in the caramel, vanillas, honeys, coconut, etc. But then it'll just drop off. So the rye cask, my methodology when I created it was to look at how peat is actually used as a blending component to add length of flavor profile and finish and depth to blends. So I thought, well, I'll just use a rye cask for this to kind of complement it, because obviously we've enough peated whiskey. So
well, I think you can see the small bit goes a long way in terms of the flavor and the palate. And then of course, as Joseph said there, it's not actually fizzy, but it has that kind of, as I said a while ago, effervescent or pop rocks quality on the tongue. Like it kind of dances, which is quite good. Will we go to dram number 2? There we go.
That last thing on that one is, if you do have a bottle of it, or you do buy a bottle of it, or you have a little bit left, if you add some ice to it, and I don't mean small bits of ice that will melt really quickly, but if you have a big ice, silicone or whatever it is, just to try it, or if you have a nice ice cube now, even try it with the rest of what's in your bottle, it completely changes, and all the spice stays there, but all the sweetness is like amplified at the front, which is really, really great. It's like 2 different whiskeys, so it's worth trying. Okay,
I look forward to it. Let us know in the
couldn't
comment
post
section.
the ice.
Sorry,
We couldn't post the ice.
no, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
We'll work on it. Now, Dram Go. This is number 2. This is your 6-year-old single malt in Madeira. This is your collaboration with number 21 off license. I'm just going to unscrew my bottle and pour it into the glass. €100 on wdoconnell.com. But of course, don't forget that discount code that is ticking across the bottom of the screen. So Dahi, this is dram number 2. You see right here.
Comes in a gift tube, number 21 as well, by the way. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So when did this collaboration launch? Tell us that first.
We started with number 21 a year and a half ago, doing their first release. It was a Madeira cask. It was a grain whiskey in a Madeira cask, 10-year-old grain. And then we refilled, when we emptied that, we refilled the cask. So this is a second fill Madeira on this one. So this just went on sale last week in in the number 21 off license chain. They don't have a website, so you have to visit them physically in store, where they have 15 stores scattered across Munster. There is a website coming, I believe, but I guess you can get some tonight on our website if you want them.
It's a tactic to not have a website.
Absolutely, yeah. No, he is working on one, and they've been in business like since 1898, the Kelly family, and they opened their wholesale business in Tiptown. So they've been around a while. So it's not like they're an overnight kind of let's get to the party last minute job. But yeah, they're definitely entering the internet age.
They're going from 1898 to 1998 by getting a website.
That's a good one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They're a great bunch to work with, John Kelly, and he's opening a whiskey tasting room across from the Cashel Palace Hotel above his shop there. And he has one of the finest collections of Irish whiskey you'll ever see. That's all I'll tell you. It's phenomenal. There is nothing he doesn't have.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, phenomenal. So
clearly, I'm not spending enough time in Munster.
Yeah, like he has anything you can get that's of note outside of W. Connell stuff. He has it. And
so this is 54% ABV before anyone sticks their nose in too far.
Yeah.
Mike saying there's one in Dungarvan worth a visit.
That's right, just down the road from where I live here, yeah, like 15 minutes away. But yeah, he's got them in Waterford, Dungarvan, Carrick, Clonmel, maybe Limerick, few in Cork, Middleton, Blarney, Tipperary. So yeah, Cashel. Yeah, this is 54% as a second fill Madeira, and it's again continuing the story of the first. You know, we used the cask initially for the very first release, which is a fantastic 63 or 64% grain whiskey in Madeira, and we gave it a good long finish. You know, and this one has had about a year or so in the second fill, which gives us different notes and allows that nice fruity distillate from triple distillate from G&D to come to still be there present, and we're getting lovely sweetness, and the Madeira cask is really offering some of that those kind of figgy notes, and
the notes on this
a bit oak. I would say there's a bit more oak coming through in this one as well as a second fill, but like a small bit, not a lot. It was a fresh Madeira cask when we got it first.
It is a very, very bright, big, juicy nose on this. And there's kind of
I've mine poured for a while now. It's good, yeah.
For me, it's kind of like a big, almost like a candied or like a dried apricot going on in the background, mixing in with all that fruit, like the fresh fruit, and then this like dried apricot. And there's something hitting in the background. I don't know if it's like marzipan or almonds or something. I keep getting it like a whiff of it behind other flavors, and it keeps like lighting me up, and I'm just trying to dig it out and figure out what it is now. And of course, Dahi won't tell you what you're smelling, but
but for me, there's a vanilla dust in there at the back of it, like you say, and I think some like raisin.
I'm gonna say sláinte.
Sláinte.
And you said this is a blend or a grain? Did you say?
No, this is a single malt, 6-year-old.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I thought you were saying that there was Madeira in grain, and I'm tasting it, and I was like, this tastes like aged malt. I couldn't.
No. This was the cask was used first fill for this one, the original 10-year-old they did with us.
Oh, okay.
It was grain, and then we refilled it with the malt.
I was literally nosing it. I was nosing it and tasting it, and I was like, "This is the maltiest grain I have ever."
If you could make grain whiskey like that at 6, we'd be off on a good thing.
This is so expressive, particularly on the palate. And again, as
spice as well, it's great. Like I like this a lot now. I'm a big fan of Madeira anyway. So
as Joseph said, I wouldn't guess this was 54% when tasting it.
No, it's good. And I think given a finish a bit of time is interesting. You know, sometimes you can get away with a quick finish, but I think given that little bit of extra time is worth doing. You know, and um, looking for a really good quality cask to begin with. Might take a bit longer. Might be a little more expensive, but I think that the proof is in the pudding, as they say at the end of it.
Absolutely. And when you're doing these collaborations with like the likes of a retailer, so there's two questions here. How do you start the conversations about the collaborations, and how do you end up at a whiskey 54%? Does every person who wants a single cask want a 50, like a cask strength, or do you work down to a magic number, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
I don't have a magic accountancy number, no, because we did two with Barry from Stories and Sips there, the Irish malts were filling as well. And they were pot stills, 5 years old, and he wanted them at cask strength. He decided that. But I agreed that they were good enough to be at cask strength. If I didn't feel it was the best for the whiskey, I would say it. I wouldn't bother it. So I would put my foot down, which I've done. So um, it's it's a process. It's collaborative for sure, but when it comes to the whiskey, I'll have the final say on whether it's going into the bottle with my name on it or not. So
And
that's
how do you start those collaborations? Do people come to you? Do you have an idea with them? Is it,
yeah,
you
it
woke up
depends.
one morning?
Yeah, some people like obviously it's not rocket science. It's been happening for a while. So I think we did the first time with number 21, and then we did like last year we did one with Carrier Killarney, or earlier this year we did one with Carrier Killarney. Um, and we have this one, and we did two with Barry, and we'll probably do a new one early in the new year with another retailer in Ireland. That's again, and we're kind of looking at retailers outside of the usual suspects when we do these as well, which is interesting. Obviously, I'd love to do some stuff with some of the bigger, more well-known stores, but uh, for now, I'm quite happy to work with whoever wants to work with me, and kind of spread the word out to the fringes of Ireland a little more, into the more regional stores. And they've been very good quality casts that we've done so far. So I can't. There's a part of me feels a bit like that I didn't release them myself, even though they're mine. But when they're a collaboration, they're not all yours. It's like you've got giant custody. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and it does, because I was going to do a pot still for Christmas, and actually I decided not to because of Barry's two, and I was like, they're the ones I probably would have done. And Barry came in looking for a cask, and he ended up picking two because he was greedy. And yeah, I'm kind of sorry I didn't say no. You can only have one. So I kind of you learn. Look, you learn. You make mistakes. I put other people's labels, logos on the front labels last time as well, and that won't ever happen again. And things like that. So we kind of have a process now. So it's very streamlined. We have now know exactly how to do it. And the kind of pricing is always this opening gambit from people, because it's like, how much do you want to spend? Because it's like, yourself. Do you want, like John Kelly from number 21? He's invested a lot of money in this program, buying casks for me to lay down for him. In some instances of other stuff that's going to come, he invested in tubes. He bought several thousand tubes so that he has a tube for each release. Things like that. So like that's commitment. And then sometimes I just want a single cask. I want it to go as quick as I can.
Yeah.
Like the next one we're doing is I'll just have to go in and see what I have available and try and find something at the price point. And that retailer's looking for something that they like to drink from their flavor profile as well, which luckily is a style of whiskey I like too, but it wouldn't be for everybody. It'd be more down the grain route. They wouldn't be a big malt head or a big peated fan, and they want something that they can say that they like, and they can sell it to their customers in their shop because they can stand by it. Then I think that's really important too. Like just doing an age statement malt or a peated malt or something like that just for the sake of it is, I think, the wrong approach. I think you should really do something that you're 100% behind and you can stand there and sell it, because if you can do that, then it will sell.
And do you just have do you squirrel away special casks, or do you find things in the warehouse you think is too um good to put into a general release or something, or do you dive into the warehouse and see what jumps out when a retailer comes along?
Well, I started a kind of a single cask program where I keep casks I think are going to be, if we've rebarreled them, or if they're kind of style of whiskey that I think are going to be of single cask quality, I put them into our racks, and then everything else is kind of, if we have stuff in large quantities, it stays on pallets. So that's kind of how we do it so far. So a lot of stuff in our racks is for small batches or very small batches, 1,000 bottles or 1,500 bottles, something, or single cask.
Okay. And Sam wants to know, is this whiskey available in the 21 shops now?
It is, and it's available on our website tonight for a week. Until it's sold off on the website. Obviously, if it's all, with 10% off. So either way, John Kelly and the Kelly family get the revenue, don't worry.
Exactly. And this is the bottle again, should anyone need to know what it looks like. Right there.
It comes in a gift tube, a grey tube. Grey and white tube.
Perfect. Well, I think we're about time to jump into our third and final dram for the evening. What do you think, Dahi?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to have one more little drop it in the ear.
While we do that, we'll introduce dram number 3. This is, of course, the Bill Phil peated single malt in rum at 59.4%, which is a WD O'Connell exclusive, I believe, from your website, 5 years old. Is that correct, Dahi?
That is correct, yeah. It's the only place you can buy it.
There you go. So yeah, obviously you shot to fame in the early days of COVID with Bill Phil that just kind of rocked
all 15 people.
the world of Irish whiskey at the time. And definitely I think is the expression that is synonymous with WD O'Connell. Tell us about this exclusive, why you pulled out this rum cask. Do you think rum inherently works with peat? And I'm going to stick my nose in this glass now. Yeah.
I suppose the last question first, absolutely, and you're about to find out. So if you haven't tried it, it goes great. I don't think necessarily rum goes with all peat. I think this distillate suits rum, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like God, I'm not sure a Kalila, or a Lafroig would suit rum, for example. But I believe the G&D peated malt does suit it. Rum is a cask style I like a lot. People, I had a thing with Laurie, I don't know, some time back, and I was just talking about, I was downplaying rum cask and that I'd been so unimpressed with rum cask whiskies that I've tried over the years. So that doesn't mean I don't like I like rum. I'm not a rum fanatic or anything. We're actually going to bring out a rum.
I'm not a rum fanatic. Let me sidebar into this new rum I'm bringing out.
Yeah, Colombian rum. But we're actually going to have it because we bought the rum so we can make our own rum casks in the warehouse. So we'll bring out a little rum for the crack. So yeah, rum is something I like to work with. We've done it with From Clear to Here release as an ingredient in an overall thing. And then I obviously had laid down single malt and rum back in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember. So it's been a long process, and then I really felt the peated malt would go well with it. So we had emptied the From Clear to Here single malt, went into rum cask, Appleton rum cask for a very short period, because I just needed the slight influence back in a fresh cask to bring the sweetness back in, because the stout had been a bit over dominant. And then we refilled it immediately with peated malt. So it's a second fill, and it's been in there for, oh God, I can't remember how long it's in there now. February 22. So it was in there for a year and a half.
Second fill spelled PH, yeah.
Oh yes, I like that one, yeah. Maybe we should call our cast strength ones Big Phil, or Big Bill Phil. Might be too much of a mouthful, but I think it works really well. I think the cast strength peated malt that we've done so far, we've only done maybe 3 casts of it. So we did a peated Marsala, peated rum, and then we did 2, maybe 3 casts of Bill Phil bourbon cast before that. So it's not, we don't do a lot of it. It's not something that happens a lot, but I'd love to have a core strength Bill Phil cast strength, but I just don't have the stocks. Maybe over time.
That's you know, that's one of the things you got to look out for putting anything as core into the family.
Or even an annual release, you know, that was like, this is going to be 1,000 bottles every year, even. But I'm so far off that, like, it's not even funny. So we'll get there.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump into this because I'm enamored by the nose. So I'm going to say Sláinte it and
Sláinte it. Here's the Shane McGowan, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
An actual poet. There you go. So what do you think?
It is so expressive, bright. There's so much going on. I love the difference between the nose and the palate as well.
Which is funny because it's standard across the Bill Phil range anyway, yeah.
Pardon me?
That difference between the nose and the palate is standard across Bill Phil in general in the distillate, so that's good.
I love this comment.
Good man, Gordo.
But this is just on my tongue, even as I sit and speak. The kind of more oxygen I get as I speak, the more it kind of draws out and changes. It's like developing on my tongue. It's a very, very nice whiskey.
It probably has the shortest finish of the 3 whiskeys, which is interesting, isn't it? For me. And I'm not complaining, like, it's great, but I just think this was really enjoyable, very, very quaffable. Am I allowed to say that?
You're allowed to say that, absolutely.
Yeah.
Palate goes on and on. It's very obviously very different to the other whiskeys we've been trying, but the complexity in the peat, and again at 59.4%, is that correct? There's none of that. Like, you can taste a slight higher amount of the alcohol on it, but no astringency, no alcohol burn. There's no difficulty drinking. Like, as you said, it's quite quaffable for the fact that it's 20% over or 50% over what you're used, what the baseline is, you know.
Yeah, and it's I love the mouthfeel. It just layers and coats your whole inside of your cheeks, and yeah, it's really enjoyable. I'm really happy with it. And it's nice to see the rum complementing it, but it does take time. I find that rum takes time to have an influence consistent in the cask, as opposed to just being like a layer on top of it, if that makes sense. So I think this is working well. Like the older malt we did, like 3 years had gone by and I was going, Jesus, this is like, was there even rum in these casks? And then year 4 it just happened. So
yeah,
luckily for these ones, we're not looking for that, because it's not a it's not a double distilled malt that's very, very mature. It's a young malt and it can take an influence quicker, or if it's a young, like a young double distilled or triple distilled malt we've used it with so far. So quite happy with that. And be interesting to see how these new rum casks that we create ourselves with this 6-year-old Colombian rum that we bought is going to do. And again, it's a blended rum from Colombia, but we were sure to find out that there was no like sugars added or anything like that, no additives into it, which is kind of hard to find. And again, we find something different that offered a different flavor profile from the usual types of rum casks that are ordered. I think somebody asked a question about rum. Mike, I have no idea. As I said earlier, I'm not a huge rum buff. I either like it or I don't. I know a lot of age statements in rum are bullshit. That's what I know. I know a lot of sugars get added, and it's a bit like tequila. A lot of vanilla and stuff like that can be. There's a lot of filler put into a lot of these products that people don't seem to know about, but I guess it happens in a lot of things. It happens in Irish whiskey with coloring. So
When you're working with the peated malt, to pull back from that a little bit, yeah, Martin, how is this 60% alcohol? It's well hidden. As I said, it doesn't taste like 60% in the slide. It doesn't have a nose of 6%. Doesn't have the palate for 6%. Do you find that there's sweet spots with the peated malt in terms of age, or even from working with casks? Some casks I've found were awful for the first 6-8 months, and then you hit 9 or like 11 months, and suddenly it's golden.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I don't even check them at that age anymore. Like it's just there's no point. Like because these are full peated malt, so it's not a peat cask finish. And I guess so if that's what you mean. But in terms of like the first bill fill we ever brought, it was 3 years and 4 months old or something. A single cask. It was absolutely fantastic. Still one of my favorites. And again, the distillate is so important. Like the G&D distillate is great. They found a really great sweet spot. They've taken 55 ppm or 50 pm. It varies from batch to batch generally. Depends what they can get their hands on from Montrose. It's just fantastic to see that, because if you took that 50-55 ppm malt and you distill it twice, it's going to be like a lot of the other 50-55 ppm. It's going to be more like Port Charlotte or Connell, or it's going to have similarities to those. And this peated malt and the one Teeling do is very different from any peated malt on the market anywhere else in the world. And I think that's really exciting. And, it's not that the Scotch can't do it, because they could just distill it one more time. And it might happen, but they probably won't. By the time it happens, hopefully we'll have kind of carved out a space to have more like Irish whiskey is known for being more approachable. And it's not that that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think people kind of say that doesn't mean it's not interesting, or it's not complex, or hasn't depth of flavor. And I think we're only kind of scraping the surface right now, really, when you think about it. Because if you look beyond Middleton and Bushmills and the old Cooley stock, everyone else is in their infancy. Nobody has hit their nobody's even hit their teens yet. Like Dingle are 10. So give it 10 more years and Dingle will be 20. And everybody else will be, there'll be a few people in the early teens, mid-teens, and then there'll be a few people at Dingle stage. I think that's really exciting. I think that's when 10, 15 years time is when we see actually the rebirth of Irish whiskey. That's why I think this is literally just the fermentation stage. That's the pardon the pun, but I do. This is not the rebirth of Irish whiskey. This is definitely
the infancy.
It's not like
I would agree with you. I've had similar sentiments. I've said it as well. That we haven't yet reached the renaissance or the rebirth or whatever you want to call it, because we're not even close to where there'll be one or two that'll fold out of pure statistics. Someone won't make it, but the ones that do make it are going to get into their teens and their everything else, and they're going to have innovation, and there'll be someone to come along and do something weird and wonderful, and some people will be very pedestrian, and as we get going on, it'll be far, far more interesting. And for you, it's like exactly, you do have to survive. And as I said, there'll be one distillery, I think, or two that'll fold just out of pure. Like, not everyone can be a success all the time. But for yourself, do you see the future as a bonder being able to, I suppose, have more access or more diversity in the market, or flavor profiles, or how does that look for you for liquid?
Yeah, like I'd say, when I started out, I had grand ambitions about trying to get as much whiskey from as many distilleries as I could very, very quickly. And, it hasn't happened. Generally, it hasn't happened because cash flow is difficult. And also the price point that smaller distilleries want for their stock, because obviously they don't make a lot of stock. A lot of our 50 distilleries are very small. We should do a graph on it, Matt, someday between us and output, and just show people who's actually like how much people can actually potentially output at their distillery.
Yeah.
Like most of the distilleries are tiny, really, and they're under a lot of pressure. They're building distilleries at the most expensive time ever to build a distillery.
Mm-hmm.
And they're under pressure from shareholders to get returns for those distilleries, as if whiskey is like if you invented whiskey today and said like this is a great business plan, like you'd be shot. Like
nobody would do it if it was invented today. No.
But now we've kind of taken that historic product, the love affair with it, and tried to convince people, yeah, you'll get your money back. Oh, in 5 years it'll be exited. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Like 5 years, you have just about learned this much, and you've done very little. And I think that's the problem for me. Then is as a result, I've learned a lot in the last 4.5 years since I started the company. We're launched 4 years now. I think maybe this weekend was it or something. Whiskey Live Dublin. So like we're behind in some ways in terms of getting stock. We've got some Boan stocks, small amount, like a couple of casks, different styles. We grew our own barley and we've started getting distillate done that way. So that's kind of probably our biggest ambition plan, which is we did our Dara distillery this year in Donegal, who don't make malt or pot still from non-peated stocks, but they did for us. So we have that. That's kind of nice and unique, and we've earmarked other distilleries to do that for us next year. Hopefully, we grow the barley with a partner farmer, etc. So like that's exciting, and it kind of over 10. Like I talk about that like a 10-year thing, and I've been talking about that 10-year thing from 3 years ago when I said I was going to do it, but it took me 3 years to get it. Actually, I sold off 2 lots of barley for cash flow after we had it done and everything, because it was like, just can't get this distilled, it's too expensive. So it was only this year we finally got around to doing it. So like I grew winter barley, and I was really excited to get that used for distillate, for pot still in particular. Didn't get to use it, sold it off as feed, and so it's been a journey, but like I'll get there. We're getting there for sure. And I think that's the most exciting thing. Having, in 10 years you come into our warehouse, there could be 50 casks a year from handfuls of small distilleries, and they will be unique. I think that's what's great, and that's not taken away from what G&D do or West Cork do or any of that. Like that's nothing to do with that. These are different projects for a different time. They're not about what we're doing right now. And what we're doing right now is trying to build product that we can release consistently, and we're learning doing that as well, which is really great. But it would be great to be able to release single casks in 10 years, from 10 years on, that we have grown the barley from, and they're ours, and they're from multiple distilleries. That's really the ambition, I think.
Well, I'll start wrapping it up now, but Gordon wants to know, is there no fear of a whiskey lock in 5 to 10 years time then, in your opinion?
Not in my warehouse, anyway.
Too much, Sahi.
No, Jesus, don't have enough money to buy enough. I know, and that's sorry. Like things are going great. Like we're very happy with things, but like it's like my vision is far beyond my pocket. That's my problem. But I think there's a very much a chance there could be a whiskey lock. Yeah. Like,
but do you think that Ireland are going to have the whiskey lock, or do you think globally the international whiskey markets could create a lock?
Whiskey, like at the end of the day, whiskey is the overall category, and from the historically strong whiskey growing nations, right? And then you've got these but like whiskey in India is not the same that's not whiskey, it's not really whiskey, a lot of it. So there are some Indian whiskey companies, don't get me wrong, but when you see whiskey as a category in India, like a lot of it is molasses and all this kind of stuff, and it's not the same product. But in terms of Scotland, Ireland, the US, Canada, the UK, England are in there now, I guess. There's 200 distilleries in Germany. They're all trying to make whiskey now when they're not making schnapps and things, and they're trying to force it to happen. But there are people out there who are investing in other than you got Australia and Denmark, like just distilleries everywhere. And I really hope whiskey is something that continues to grow, and it has been growing as a brown spirit category for many years. And I think that's what we should focus on. That we're in the whiskey business, we're not in the Irish whiskey business. I think we worry about the term Irish in Ireland too much.
That's fair.
So I hope we can look beyond that. And then if there's a whiskey lock, so be it. Like you can't be in this thing for overnight success and overnight returns. I'm in it, and like a lot of people are in it because we're passionate about it. We're all here giving up our evenings, whether you'd see you at home, you give up your money, or give up your time, whatever. We're all doing this because we love it, and that's doesn't obviously make financial sense sometimes. I think, and the whiskey locks will come from the big producers, and they can, they've happened in the past, and they'll get by them, and it's just we have to be able to kind of cut our cloth to measure when that comes, or if it comes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say a very big thank you to you. I hope that the success of the Irish whiskey industry goes from strength to strength, because otherwise your employment and my employment are very much tied to...
worst case scenario, we can drink it.
There you go. Exactly. Well, I want to say a very big thank you to you, Dahi. Of course, for everyone who is watching at home, a very big thank you to you guys. I see Sam Grimes saying it's the first episode you've been able to watch in a while. I'm delighted for anyone that's been able to watch again live. To everyone else who's been in the comment section, a very big thank you to all the people that come regularly, who watch after the fact, to their friends in Japan and Brazil and Canada. I know are religious at watching. A very big hello to you guys, whatever time of day you'd be watching this. If you subscribe to Irish Malt and 3 Drams, as more to the point, that you will have an email in your inbox for 10% off the entire WD Connell whiskey range from Irish Malts. That's in your inbox right now. But whether or not you subscribe to 3 Drams or not, this discount code, I'll do it there, that's in the ticker across the bottom of the screen, 3 Drams 10 on Dahi's website, which is wdoconnell.com. And you use 3 Drams 10, gets you 10% discount on almost everything, which includes the whiskeys and the cash shares as well. So that is something you got to keep an eye out for. Dram number 1 is available on both websites. Drams 2 and 3 are only available on Dahi's website. So again, a very big thank you to the guys from Irish Malt, to Donovan Brothers, who put this all together. Dahi, for your time and these fantastic whiskeys, and then to everyone at home, a very big thank you.
Wheel Beacus, Matt. Thanks very much. Great to have me. And yes, Mike, I'm very opinionated.
Have a good one, lads. Good night.